we've already covered obstacles of following through, like overcommitment, and how many of us are really vulnerable to feelings of guilt and fear and obligations, and we're primed to want to please other people reflexively. Um, we want to work on other people's projects, and we sort of end up neglecting our own. So, in part two, we're going to talk about distraction. And when you fail to follow through, the first thing is it's important to take it seriously. Spend some time analyzing what got in your way. Because with ADHD, it's not common for us to spend a lot of time reflecting. It doesn't come naturally to us because we're so focused on the present moment. And by not reflecting, it makes it much more difficult for us to learn from our mistakes. So, spending time reflecting when you know you've been distracted is really important, especially when you find yourself indulging in your favorite distractions. So, for me, of course, my phone is one. I play mobile games. I like being on social media. I like reading the news, and I can just doom scroll for literally hours and really get lost in that rabbit hole. And you come to this realization usually after you've been doing that for a long period of time, and of course you've got other things that are more important, that these distractions are killing us. They're taking our time away from us. They're stealing it in a really insidious manner because our distractions, especially our favorite ones, are disguised as being enjoyable and sort of innocuous, mundane, certainly not dangerous. And they we get to our distraction when we have something we know we should be doing, an important task, let's call it. We tend to get seduced by this voice that comes disguised as self-care. The distraction comes disguised as self-care, and it's hiding a doubt, a feeling of insecurity, and about the big important task. And that insecurity, that feeling of doubt, it just slows us down just a little bit. And it makes us feel apprehensive. So we slow down a little bit, and that opens up just enough space for questions, for vagueness, for uncertainty to creep in and grow and sort of like start to put its roots down. So the voice says, I'd better take a moment, before, just comforting myself before I get started with this important task, because after all, it is a really important task, and that's a little bit scary. Important things can be scary, and I want to bring my best energy. So I'll just indulge in this comforting distraction for a little bit, and that's self-care. And self-care is always good, right? Helps me bring my best energy. And then boom, we're indulging in the distraction. We're doing not the important task. We're not pushing our goals forward, the ones that make us good. I just need a minute to mentally prepare before the hard work. That's what we tell ourselves. It's self-care. When we recognize that justifying statement that we tell ourselves, it's important that we think about how we felt last time we indulged in these hollow distractions. These distractions that are just activities that are free of like really most value for us. It's just busy work. It's just games. I mean, it feels bad every time that we waste a whole day, or even 15 minutes, any time that's wasted, where we just snap back and say, wait a minute, this hour's gone by and I was meant to be doing the important task, and now I'm going to have to rush. And you start to feel more and more worth less. Less. Because we're not doing something with our time that makes us feel worth more. That worth more comes from following through. It comes from finishing the things that we say we're going to do. That's the worth more. Consistency and follow through. So remember that pattern. There's the doubt, okay? Important task. And so you're feeling like it's an important task. I have this feeling like, ooh, success is sort of uncertain, and that's kind of scary. The idea of failure is kind of scary. Oh, what's going to change when I do succeed? Is that going to be real good? Is that going to change things, for my life, for my circumstances, for my situation? There's these doubts, and once those doubts hit us, if we then justify distraction to sort of, in order to avoid for just a few moments that important work that we had intended to do, that we had planned to do, then we're in trouble, because then we're getting distracted. And if you're not prepared for it, this can derail a lot of your time, literally kill your time, kill you. So not to be melodramatic, but I'm a guy who spent a lot of time staring into the corners of the room, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I definitely want to be able to harness my time and limit that time that I do spend daydreaming. Perfectly legitimate activity. Sometimes that helps me get recentered, and I just like to be alone and in my own head. But I want to make sure that that's limited to a reasonable amount of time, because there's so much other stuff that I want to do that requires planning, attentiveness, and consistency, follow through, completion. So first, we need to recognize distraction, and it's important to remember that distractions could be anything, even things that we perceive as positive behaviors. Say exercise is one that I like to use. And it would be difficult to exercise forever, but you can see how, nutrition, you can say that snacking, like for me, binge snacking is something, because I don't really eat very regularly. Another atypical ADHD person characteristic, right? We don't have regular meals if we're not really making sure to be disciplined about that. So then we can end up binge eating. And again, I'm telling myself, this is self-care. I need to have clear thoughts, so I need to have some food on my stomach. I need to get a water, and all of that is true. But if I'm not acting with intention, then so much time is wasted. So I've got to recognize these distractions and start to evaluate, what are the recurring ones, which always happen, and how can I diminish that, get some control over it, so that I can take back some of my time. And it's a virtuous cycle. I'm going to get more of my time back to have more focused work, or sure, have reward yourself with the 5 minutes you freed up of 5 minutes of extra distraction, whatever it is. But this is a virtuous cycle. So the first part is recognizing your distraction, and like I said, that kind of, for me, comes from recognizing the justification I use, the justifying statement. When I tell myself, I'll put it off for a little bit, I've got time, this is self-care, blah, 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 whatever words you use, those, because you'll tell them to yourself, right, kind of in the background of your mind, those are what you're going to have to be on the lookout for. Let those be raised alarms, right? So, okay, I'm at the crossroads. I could become distracted now. How is this going to play out? I have a choice to make, right? The intended activity for the important task, or the distraction activity, okay? So, unfortunately, awareness is not going to be enough to prompt change. That is hard to take in the moment. I see it time and time again. When you realize that you are distracted, it is so painful, frustrating, such a negative experience to not be able to change your activity anyway, right? So you're sitting on the couch, you're scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and you know that there's something that you should be doing. You know what you should be doing. You see that you're not doing it. You know, you can sort of zoom out and observe yourself on the couch, willfully disregarding your best intentions, and still not be able to change your trajectory, what you're doing, your behavior in that moment. And that can cause us to feel very negative, beat ourselves up. And then we spin out emotionally, and what do? Self-care. We go deeper into that distraction pit. We drill down and we do it more. It's like, I'm going to need another hour of this till I feel good enough to get to that task because I'm such a worthless bag of shit. I'm such a worm in the dirt, right? You can tell I've been there. So what I'm saying is you can get out. Let's talk about it. So this is where the no comes in. The karate chop. No is your chop. No is the slice. No is the edge of the blade that you're going to use to cut down all of this fog, all of this hazy distraction garbage, the doubt, right? Doubt feels like a fog, right? Feels like, it's unclear, it's doubtful, it's making me doubt. Ooh, is it yes, no, is it good, is it bad? Oh, infinite choices, whatever shall I do? Maybe I should just stay in bed, look at, play games for the rest of the day, right? Choices are so hard because there's doubt. There's that haziness, that fog, and the word no cuts straight through it like a blade of, like a laser through that fog, burns it right away and cuts a path for your best intentions. So we are on the couch scrolling through Instagram. No, this is not what I intended to do with my time. No, this is not my best intention. Okay? Immediately, I can put it down. I can find a way to tell myself, okay, in the middle of reading a post, in the middle of playing around, I can put it down. I can do that. And immediately I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel like, wow, I'm going to respect myself, right? I'm going to say, well, this guy has willpower. This guy can do what he says. He is in control of what he does. And that is what makes us happy. If you didn't catch it, what makes us happy is agency. Our ability to affect our own circumstances. Our ability to choose what we're doing, be in control of our situation, even the smallest amount. And it goes by degrees. The more control you have over your situation, the safer you feel, and the more content or the easier you're able to be content, to reach, if you don't want to call it happiness, whatever it is, but a state of security and contentment. So saying no, demanding a reason why you are not pursuing your best choice or why you are pursuing this distraction. Is this, hey, maybe this mobile game is the best thing that I could be doing right now. But if it comes back to those justifications that we've learned not to trust, like self-care, and again, I don't want to get on a tangent, but there's nothing actually wrong with self-care. It's only when it is used to derail us, when it is used to introduce a distraction. That's just a deceit, a deception, a disguise for that doubt and for our insecurity to rule us and make choices for us. So we need to go with intention and agency and question what we're doing in every moment. But especially when those alarm bells are going off in our head that are saying, it's this, I just heard the justification. I just heard, just 5 minutes of video games. I just said to myself, I heard it. And now I've got my phone in my hands and I'm ready to open up the mobile game. So at that moment when I'm looking at the crossroads, when I'm looking down the barrel of that gun, I'm thinking to myself, now I can start questioning this. I can start saying no. I can start saying, what was I after with the important task? Because if we look at the outcome of my feelings, how I feel about myself, if I pursue the distraction or if I pursue the intended activity for the important task, there's no comparison. I feel worthless. I feel valuable and confident. So even before we make the decision, even before we follow through when we finish, at that crossroads, when we hear the justifying statement and we start to introduce doubt and maybe a distraction, when we're at that crossroads, that is when we can think about those feelings. Close your eyes. Think about how you'll feel when you accomplish the important task. How you felt when you wrote it down on your calendar to be finished. The people that you're going to impress. Show the world what you're capable of, man. That's the challenge, right? That's what we're afraid of. That's where the insecurity and the doubt comes in. What if what I'm capable of is bullshit? I'm just a normal guy. I'm just a normal person. What if everybody laughs at me? Then I guess I would rather have not played in the first place. But deep down that you got that magic. You got that it thing. So that's the point when you need to think about how you're going to feel when this important task is done, and you need to bathe in those feelings. You need to really connect with it emotionally, because that's another thing that comes really that doesn't come naturally to atypicals. That forethought and really connecting with feelings on a deep level. When they're abstract like that, it's difficult. So you got to spend more time on it. You've got to put more effort into it than a neurotypical would. And it's those positive feelings that are going to pull you forward. And when you're at that crossroads of distraction, you'll make the right choice more often. So your process of reducing distractions will be unique to your situation. Keep working on this. It will take practice. And find the words that help you switch, that push you, that motivate you, because it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be imagine how difficult it would be for you to lift yourself and carry you around. That's what you have to do. You have to carry yourself across the finish line mentally, all with your mind. That is how difficult it's going to be to motivate you. It's going to be as difficult as lifting yourself off the ground physically. All right, let's move on to part 2, forgetfulness. So this is the other symptom I wanted to talk about, or the other obstacle to following through that it's really important to take care of, and that's forgetfulness. So the truth is, when we don't follow through on things, a lot of times it's because it really legitimately slipped our minds. We just didn't remember, and it's one of the most frustrating symptoms of ADHD. So how can we follow through? How could we possibly follow through on something if we don't remember it? It's like trying to fight an invisible enemy. You can't shoot a hurricane, though some people try. It's impossible. So we need to use tools that help us boost our awareness of these things that we forget, these obligations responsibilities, whatever it is. So, first, remember to take note of things that you forget consistently. If it's always at work, if it's a particular task, if it's birthdays, anniversaries, there's different kinds of things that you might consistently overlook or neglect. So it's really important to figure out what those things are. What are we even talking about? And again, don't have a vague perception of this. Everything that we do is about getting more and more clarity. The more clarity you have, the more likely it is that you'll follow through, that you'll succeed. So if we are consistently neglecting a certain type of activity, maybe there's something else there emotionally that's holding us back, some reason that we're unconsciously avoiding the responsibility or obligation. So it's important to discuss that kind of thing with a therapist, because even the best accountability tools in the world can't overcome your natural human desire to avoid pain and fear. Even if those pains and fears aren't really real, they're just the product of your imagination, they're a cognitive bias that you cooked up, so because again, you have some trauma or something, and that is a legitimate concern. But again, the tools can't help if you're going to unconsciously be avoiding using them and following through on the thing anyway. So look out for that. And the clue can often be in what you consistently avoid or forget. So then the first tool, you know where this is going. Forgetfulness, the best possible tool you can use for this, for long-term things, is your calendar. Always consult your calendar and remind yourself what you planned to be doing in that moment frequently. I told a story at the start of this live stream about a client of mine who now gets a beep every single hour at the top of the hour, and it reminds her to see, what did I plan to do? What did I say? What did I commit this hour to? And that is so powerful. So definitely going to get me one of these watches. But that is also something that you can do with alarms and timers, and we'll get to that in just a second. But anytime that someone asks you, like we talked about in part 1 with overcommitment, anytime somebody asks you for your time, make sure that you just reflexively say, I need to check with my calendar first, and ask for an email with details. Get things in writing. That's going to make it a lot harder to forget. And if you do forget, at least you can go back and see, like, oh, wow, there really is a problem here. There's no dispute that you had the information, So it's going to be a lot easier to check up on exactly what you need to be doing and when, if you have the details in writing. And email makes everything super searchable. Even if you need to send yourself an email with a reminder, that's going to be searchable later. And I don't have time tonight to talk about decluttering your inbox, but one super helpful tool is using the archive function. I use Gmail, and you don't have to delete your messages, but you can get them hidden from your inbox by simply archiving them, and they're still searchable later. So you can have an empty inbox, but all those messages are still at your fingertips with a quick search. So if you send yourself a reminder, you can clear it from your inbox and then later search for what you need. Anyway, that's a completely different discussion. So using your calendar. And the calendar is something that I've noticed every single person that I work with in coaching needs help with their calendar and isn't using the calendar efficiently, is even like afraid to use the calendar. And I was there too. I went through all of those same struggles. I felt like a calendar was something that would always befuddle me, bewilder me. I look at it and I feel lost in this sea of time stuff. it was like having vertigo. That was what looking at a calendar is like. But since then, I've developed some strategies, I've done some research, and now I can really help. Uh, I can really help atypicals use their calendar to its maximum potential and actually enjoy using the calendar because it shows you that you're doing the things that you're excited about. It shows you the time you have to spend on yourself and the things that you care about. So you can learn to love your calendar. Schedule a coaching session with me if that sounds like something that you're struggling with. So the second tool is, like I said, timers and alarms. Set alarms for the things that you need to remember. One of my coaches told me, you've got to make a plan. You got to make a plan to remember the plan. And so I need both alarms and visual cues. So not only do I have my alarm go off, but I write my important tasks down in the morning, and I will put it at eye level in the same place every day, just above my desk. And on the back of the door, I've got a cork board where I pin up my list for the day so that every time I go to, like I said, do some binge snacking or get myself a glass of water, I see my task list again. I know exactly what I need to be working on. I've got the alarms going, so I know when to switch tasks. And sometimes instead of the alarm, if I know that I'm focused and it's the right kind of vibe, the right kind of mood, then I'll set the timer instead. Oh, I was gonna grab my timer, but I must have fallen off the desk. Anyway, I'll set the egg timer instead. Or I'll use a music playlist if I don't want to use a timer or an alarm. A music playlist can be great if I just have a half hour of songs that I play, and I know, okay, this song is about halfway through, this song is near the end, so I know that I need to start wrapping my work up, and I can keep a kind of a pace without, just the monotonous ticks of my normal timer, which can be good too for some tasks. So alarms are great, and visual cues are great, because you need to associate the alarm with a particular type of information. If it's the watch beeping, like we talked about, then the type of information is simply look at the calendar. And that is ingrained, like, isn't there something I should be doing? And hey, maybe that's enough. But for me, what I like to do is have the alarms and the visual cues. So don't be afraid to be silly with the lengths you will go to remember things and therefore follow through consistently. Go big. Do extra at first because you're a weak-ass baby and you need to start walking, crawling, whatever. Climb some stairs, baby. So anything you need to do, don't be afraid of being silly to make some gains. Next, make a detailed plan. A plan is not just a list of things that need to be done. And this was a tough lesson for me to learn, okay? In addition to your list of tasks, a good plan includes the time each step will take, a description of the finished product, whatever done looks like, and some tactics that you'll use to deal with the most likely obstacles, the things that get in your way. A good plan will already have considered those and your possible workarounds. So remember, the time each step will take, what done looks like, potential obstacles. Those are parts of a good plan, okay? Now, frequently, I'll cut it down and I'll just have my list of tasks and the time they'll take, and then when I'll do them. So that's my sort of minimized version of a plan. But the more detailed that you can make your plan, And the more time you spend on that, the more clarity you'll have and the better the final product will be. Atypicals tend to misunderstand the value of planning. We tend to dismiss the value of planning and the time that it takes. We tend to dismiss those things because plans have never really worked for us. We always get about the same outcome from just using our wits and just acting spontaneously in the moment, getting things done at the last minute under pressure, using those natural gifts that atypicals have. So we never made good plans, so of course we doubt that plans are useful and valuable. But the truth is, they are, if you make a good plan. In fact, they're necessary for anything more than the simplest project. And they even can help simple projects sometimes too. So make a detailed plan, and that's not just a list of tasks. Okay. Finally, other people can be a great help when it comes time to look over finished work or even to remind us of the important steps that we need to be taking on our big important tasks. So if other people are involved, if there's a team, then they can really provide a lot of natural accountability. For instance, working in a room with other people, just having other people around in a library. It doesn't need to be people that even know you. Working in a coffee shop for some people can provide just a little bit extra accountability. Of course, if they're your coworkers or your teammates or whatever, and they're actually expecting a result from you, then that's going to really boost the accountability to another level. But just having other people around makes us want to present ourselves better and therefore do the things that make us feel valuable, confident, good about ourselves, and in connection to other people. And those things are following through on our important tasks, being consistent and reliable. We want to appear that way to other people and be that way to ourselves, right? Because if you feel like a fraud all the time, then obviously that's not good for your self-image and your mental health, your self-esteem. So other people and the accountability they provide can give us a natural boost. Occasionally, this can be an appropriate way to deal with forgetfulness, in your personal life. But to be honest, it's the wrong way to handle it 99% of the time. Asking your partner, or your friends or your family to remind you of things, hold you accountable for things. They don't want that. Nobody wants the responsibility of, caring for an adult, and the sort of parent-child dynamic can be something that strains a lot of relationships for atypicals. When we rely on other people too much, it can really sour a relationship quickly. Because like I said, nobody wants responsibility for another adult, okay? So how do we get accountability then? Well, that can be an accountability coach, life coach, ADHD coach, somebody that you hire in a professional capacity to actually hold you accountable for things, check up on things, maybe send you reminders if you need those things, a personal assistant. There's lots of names and particular niches for this kind of service, but that can be as important as paying for anything else. So that's really the way to deal with forgetfulness as far as outsourcing your reminders to other people. Definitely, that's something that you should consider paying for so that you don't ruin your closest relationships. Okay, so that's a lot for today. Let's leave it there for now. Let's table this until next time. Like I said, next week we will be concluding the follow through mini series. I'm going to